what's up, folks? This podcast is brought to you by Fight Club Crate, mystery fight gear, knockout prices, undisputed value, combat sports boxes delivered monthly. Use my promo code TAPTHAT15 at Fight Club Crate for 15% off your first purchase. Follow those folks on Instagram at Fight Club Crate. Very cool stuff. Finally, a winner of a gift idea for the combat connoisseur in your life. They're adding new stuff to their monthly boxes all the time. Very cool products. Check it out. And Substats is the analytics and intelligence platform for competitive grappling, giving promoters, leagues, commentators the data they've never had with matchmaking tools, athlete profiles, event breakdowns, and match analysis powered by computer vision. If you compete, if you promote, you just love competitive grappling, check them out at substats.app and on Instagram at Substats. If you're into competitive grappling, Substats is building the analytics layer the sport has been missing with athlete profiles, event intelligence, and match breakdowns. Check them out at substats.app. Promo code TAPTHAT for 10% off of your initial purchase. And what's up, everybody? This is Brady Grove bringing you another interlude episode of the Tap That MMA podcast. I just did about 2 hours last night talking about the UFC and Ryzen and the Contender Series. I'll be putting out short video clips of that leading up to those events, and I hope to be able to do something a little bit more specific right before Ryzen and the Contender Series on Tuesday. But this is an interlude episode, and with me today... You heard it there, folks. She is currently a 6-0 professional fighting out of Derby, England. Give it up for Summer. Ice cold Onley. Summer, thank you so much for being here. How's it going?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Oh, doing quite well. And look, to start off on the point that I messaged you about right after we got this day set in stone. As soon as I started really like watching your fights all in a row and studying the way that your fights have gone down, my God, there have been some really impressive performances. The overwhelming of your opponents in the striking department in particular, but the well-rounded nature of all of your wins too. Like the very impressive 6-0 start to your professional career. So after these most recent wins, because you've had the biggest win here, you had what was a history-making win for the FCC title against over Monica Fontes back in November, and then you're coming off a second-round finish of Melina Messias back on March 7th at FCC 45. After winning the title and defending it, what's the feeling at 6-0 as a professional?
Yeah, I mean it feels really surreal, if I'm honest. I mean, I've had a very short career compared to other people. I mean, like I only really had my pro debut in 2024, so it's crazy to think that I've already won a professional belt and defended it once. And I've been going against some really heavy hitters, some really good strikers and jiu-jitsuers. And I'm just it's crazy to think that, I started 7 years ago and I'm now 6-0 as a professional. And I'm really happy with how my professional career has gone so far. Yeah.
I mean, winner of a professional belt, but a professional belt in a promotion that we've seen become more and more prominent steadily over the amount of prospects that they're sending to the next level. We've seen more and more prospects from the FCC ranks who wore FCC belts make their way to the UFC and to, other promotions that are, at the top of the world. And what was it like because a lot was made of, you being the first female champion in FCC when you won that belt back in November. What has it been like fighting under the FCC banner and like the ever growing quality and prominence of that promotion when traditionally every prospect from your neck of the woods was coming out of Cage Warriors. And now that's not necessarily the case. There's a lot more promotions in the UK that are able to send people, to the next level. And they're touting high levels of talent, in these different promotions out of the UK.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's like you said, like I don't know, probably like 3 or 4 years ago, Cage Warriors was kind of the only direct route that any European would ever have to go to the UFC. Whereas now FCC in the last 3 or 4 years has been like a proper competitor to Cage Warriors. And especially with like female bouts as well. Like I don't really see many female bouts on Cage Warriors. It's like once every like 4 or 5 months that I see a female on there. So it's nice to see that FCC are getting belts that people can aim for. I mean, I know Cage Warriors has had a bantamweight champion before, but I don't know anyone that's kind of fought it in the last 2 years. But FCC have paved the way for women's MMA in the UK. There's loads of amateur bouts as well, which is really nice to see. There's like a lot of weight divisions for women to go to as well. So yeah, being the first female, professional belt holder for FCC is like something like really, really special to me, because I've spent my whole professional career just fighting with FCC, and I trusted them with my career because they've proved time and time again that they're going to get people in the very best promotions, and that's what I ideally want. So following in other people's footsteps, hopefully I can make it to the big show eventually as well. So yeah, I'm just really happy that they made a belt, and I was able to fight for the first one against like another top ranked opponent in Brazil. So yeah, it's just it's all very surreal. It's all very cool for me. Yes.
And the amateur factor, that is very important to have, I think, like in your ranks, is because like it's an advantage that Cage Warriors has had for a while, where a lot of people you see like fighting for Cage Warriors Academy East and West and everything, and you see you see it with LFA, you see it with Cage Fury in America, where people start their whole amateur careers under one banner, and then as a pro transition to just fighting as a pro under that banner, and it becomes a lot easier to kind of predict the quality of them as a fighter like from afar. And that makes it a lot better when you're able to offer amateur opportunities to fighters, and then you're able to better analyze them, and I think it makes it easier for FCC to put on quality cards. Because not that long ago, if people weren't fighting amateur for Cage Warriors, like you said, like they were fighting in a lot more like over here, over there. It was a little bit more random. It was a little bit hard to predict. And we see areas of the world where that isn't the case for amateurs, and they're fighting in something called like Fight Music Show 3. Fighting is fun too. And it's like, I don't know what that means. I don't know who he beat to really get to this point, but having amateur opportunities and being able to build those fighters from the ground up, I think is so important for a promotion to lay a long-term stake in an area.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. And you kind of build that like relationship with the fighter as well. Like you said about fighting on different shows. I was like that amateur. I was fighting on every show that I could, because there was just no real promotion that was. Okay, no, there I am. Can you still hear me?
I can hear you. Your picture is gone.
Oh God, I think my Wi-Fi is okay. Oh no. Should I just keep talking? I don't know.
Yeah, I can hear you. Well,
No.
yeah, I can
Okay.
hear myself in the background a little bit. Yeah, so we'll just keep talking. I get you can if you want to, you can try to figure that out. But yeah, like as an amateur, your first 3 fights were the Almighty Fighting Championship, which to me is a recognizable promotion. But I see how like some people maybe haven't heard it. Battle Arena, Four Nations Championship, but like the IMMAF stuff is always something I'm fascinated by. Like the international amateur competitions, even if people never even got a win at one of those competitions, the fact that they ever participated in them, even when I'm trying to get a feel for how a particular prospect might perform, that's very important to me. Now, what is the experience like fighting in some of those those amateur competitions like IMMAF, and like what it's like for so many people of different areas to be brought together to kind of test their mettle and measure what they're doing up against people from around the world?
Yeah, I have like good things and bad things about the IMAF. I mean, obviously, I competed in 2022 now, and when I first kind of entered into amateurs, a lot of the girls that were more experienced than me in the amateur scene were all doing the IMAFs, and they were all in these massive, massive leagues. Like they had like 16, 20 girls in their category. So when I signed up, I was imagining that I was going to get like quite a lot of fights because, behind the scenes, it does cost a lot of money to enter it, and you hope to get as much out of it as you possibly can. So when I entered it, I only had 3 other girls in my category, so I was low-key a little bit disappointed. But luckily, I had some very, very good experienced people in there. Like I think there was my first opponent had 5 fights. Then obviously, when I fought Cecile Belander in the final of it, she was like 6-1 or something like that at the time. So I had like very high level girls that I was fighting against that, not necessarily always going to get in the UK. So it is really, really good to have that experience because, with the UK scene, it's just like there are obviously like a lot more girls in it now, but when I was doing it, there was probably like 3 or 4 other bantamweights that were like top tier in the UK. And by the time I'd entered the IMAF, I'd already fought all of them. So it's like, do you have to keep fighting the same people? Do you have to fight people that are lower experienced than you? So the IMAF kind of opened it up to fight, similar girls, but in the European scene, or if you're going to do the world, in the world scene. So, and I think mentally it's quite difficult because obviously it all happens in within like a week. You're having back-to-back fights, and that like and you don't know who you're going to get either. So you don't know who's going to win the semi-final, so you don't know who you're going to fight in the next fight. So it's hard to game plan. So you've got to spend like, I remember spending like an hour or two with my coach that like the day before I fought in the final, like just going over the game plan that we had just come up with, kind of thing. So it's definitely a test tough for people that you have to fight on a whim. You kind of have to wing it a little bit, which is good because sometimes game plans don't even go to plan. So yeah, definitely test you both physically and mentally because I saw people doing like crazy weight cuts as well, which is just mental if you're doing that 3 or 4 times in a row. Like it can't be good for your body, right? But luckily, I didn't have to do any like water cuts. I just had to like watch my weight a little bit with what I ate. But yeah, it's definitely a good experience. But obviously, it's just the cost of it, and sometimes you're not always going to get the fights that you want. But I'd definitely recommend people to do it if they can afford it, and they've run out of people to fight. It's definitely a good experience for that.
Now, Summer, I have a lot of points to bring up from what you just said, but I think people deserve to, if we're going to be talking about how great your career has gone so far, I think people deserve to see your face. So I'm going to remove you from the studio real quick, and then let's see if bringing you back, like try to exit out.
I'll rejoin.
Try to exit out, and then I'll add you back and see if that fixes the picture. In the meantime, I will play the Tap That theme song here.
5 rounds. 5 rounds. Every card tells a story. Some people watch fights. We study them.
From the prelum lights to the title fight glow, every round got a lesson if you're watching it slow, not chasing.
All right, Summer's back. Just playing the AI created Tap That theme song in the meantime. So now to the points that you're making, now like you fought at 145 pounds in IMMAF, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I mean that's gotta contribute to the fact that like that group wasn't as large as you would have liked it. Now, like based on what you said, it seems like pretty comfortable for you to fight at 145 pounds. Then,
Yeah, like I don't walk around that much bigger than featherweight, to be honest. So, if I knew that I was going to have to keep cutting weight, I just didn't want to do it every day. So, being at bantamweight, yeah, I do have to do a water cut for that for sure. And I was like, if I'm going to enter it and I'm going to do back-to-back fights, I'm not willing to do water cut. So, yeah, featherweight was definitely like a better division for me. It's just a shame that, yeah, like you said, there wasn't as many girls in it.
I mean, even in Four Nations championships where you beat Lisa Zimmo in the championships, that was at lightweight, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was a bit of a tank then. I only went to lightweight again because there was no one in bantamweight and there was no one in featherweight, so I had to go up to lightweight. So I think the other girls were a lot bigger than me, or they're just taller. I know Lisa Zimmo is like a bantamweight now, so obviously she's just cut down. But you know, the girls that I was fighting, they were massive. Yeah, they were big girls.
I mean, that's got to be so crazy that like the opportunity. I'm hearing an echo. The opportunity that you were finding was at 155 pounds, which is crazy because I hate to think of how many fighters out there are. I hate to think of how many fighters out there are trying to make a huge cut to 125 pounds instead of being able to fight at 135. But like being able to find opportunities, I guess, as an amateur at lightweight, that's got to be. I love the fact that there's women's featherweight, like whenever there is. I love the women's featherweight division because there's such a like, you know, more. And the image is gone again.
Cut off. I've got no Wi-Fi. Could you please just watch that for a minute, please? I've got like no Wi-Fi. It's not working at all.
Here's Summer. I'll remove you one more time. I'll play a little bit more of the song, and then we'll see if we get a fix off that.
Okay.
Hot takes, what chasing was true. Finding diamonds in the regional scene before they break through. We respect every style, every path, every craft. Break and take frame by frame while the rest just react. No gimmicks, just riddle every breakdown precise. Where the numbers meet the nuance, that's the edge, that's the price.
Is it working now?
Yeah, I can see you.
Oh, it's a mic, isn't it? Like, what is going on with me?
I've between me and everybody else I've had on the podcast of late.
Oh my god! Should I try my laptop? Do you think my laptop might be better?
I mean, probably your laptop probably would be better. So let's try that. I'll play the song over because I like it, and try to get back on your laptop. We'll see if that fixes it.
Okay.
Folks, it's been a learning process here since the move, but again, I don't think it's my internet today, which is a relief. But I am talking to someone who is in the United Kingdom.
Some people watch fights. We study them.
From the prelum lights to the title fight glow. Every round got a lesson if you're watching it slow. Not chasing hot takes, what chasing was true. Finding diamonds in the regional scene before they break through. We respect every style, every path, every craft. Break and take frame by frame while the rest just react. No gimmicks, just riddle every breakdown precise. Where the numbers meet the nuance, that's the edge, that's the price.
fighter got a voice. Tap that, every fan gets a choice. Welcome to the Tap That MMA podcast. Tap that, MMA our podcast. Where the tape meets the talk.
All right. That was really good timing. All right.
There we go.
Yeah, that sounds good. All right.
Now. I should have done this at the start, shouldn't I, really?
Well, so one of the points there is like, one, it is a bummer, like with all the associated costs that like, one, you said like behind the scenes, it takes a lot of money to even participate in those. So I'm just assuming like registration fees. Like I'm sure that that's a cost in of itself. And then I'm sure there's travel, the having to make sure that you're prepared for multiple fights, like in a short period of time. I mean, with all that, not getting to the amount of fights and experience that you want out of it is a bummer. But at the same time, like, what was the value that you did get out of it? Like, as far as being able to face, competition that normally you maybe wouldn't see, in the area that you're in, and like getting to test your mettle against other people that were putting themselves out there on the international level.
I mean, yeah, it was like second to none. I mean, I knew I was never going to fight those kind of girls on the regional circuit in the UK. Like, so it was really, really good. Like experience getting to, and like different places in the world will have different experience, like different like backgrounds. Obviously, like the UK, where I feel like we're more strikers than anything. So me coming from like a jiu-jitsu background against all these other girls that are like, obviously when I went to the final with Cecile Belanda, I feel like she was a really good judoka. So I couldn't really get that kind of experience in the UK. So it kind of exposes you to the different styles that you're always going to face in professional. So it kind of gets you ready for that like next step up as well, because you're not going to get everything in the UK. You're not going to get every kind of style that you need to be exposed to. So it's really good. And obviously you have like, I feel like a lot of the guys in our team went against Ukrainians, and my goodness, like their wrestling and jiu-jitsu is like top tier, like so good. So going against those kind of countries where like their level is so high, it's going to just make you better. Even if you lose, like it's still good experience. It will expose all the weaknesses that you have in a game. So yeah, I feel like although the costs are a little bit expensive, it's definitely worth it if you can go. Yeah.
Although the costs are what it
Oh, sorry. Yeah, although the costs are quite high, it's definitely like worth it if you can afford it.
And yeah, I say it like I've never put it in these terms before, but like when you're looking at a like prospects or someone that like is on the regional circuit, you're trying to get a feel for like what their potential is. It's always meaningful when it's like, because you see guys that it's like, all right, he's got 8 wins in FCC. That means a lot. But when someone has beaten a guy with the last name Kinoshita, when someone has beaten a guy with, when someone has beaten
a guy with a beard like that, yeah, it's real. It's real.
When you've beaten someone named Mama Sharadov, when you've beaten someone with the last name Ulu, spelled with 2 lowercase u's, L-U, like in a row, it's like, those are very different things. And being able to handle different, very different approaches to MMA, I think is a telling sign for because people make a lot of stylistic matchups when they're analyzing different fights. And at the end of the day, it doesn't necessarily matter style versus style. It matters who is better at their style of fighting. Like when it's like, well, I think that this person's going to go for the takedowns and I don't know if this person's going to handle that well. It's like, hold on though. Like you're forgetting the part that this person is way better at striking than this person is at wrestling. But being able to handle those different styles, those different approaches to fight, those different backgrounds where like, Especially like in Japan, you've got fighters starting their career when they're 16 years old, and they're, they might be 4-9, but it really doesn't mean anything about whether they're going to win their next fight or not. They might then rattle off 11 in a row in Shudo or Pancrase or something. So being able to take on people of different backgrounds with different experience levels in MMA, I think that says a lot about a fighter. And I think even if you don't come up with a win in all of those fights, it still gives me a more positive vibe about a fighter moving forward, is the fact that they have that experience under their belt.
Yeah, definitely. It's like I said before, it doesn't matter if you win or you lose, or you lose in the first round. It's just like, well, at least you tested yourself, eh? I know it's a lot of money down the drain, but at least you got to fight the best of the best at the time. And you know what? It doesn't. I always used to, be really not protective, but I always used to love being undefeated at amateur. And then when you lose, it's kind of like no one really cares about your amateur record when you go pro. I mean, there's obviously some part of it that you're like a prospect or whatever if you've never been defeated or you have a really solid record and you've gone against good people. But I feel like people nowadays are kind of so protective on their amateur record, which is crazy to me because no one really cares when you go professional. No one's caring about, 6 years ago you lost to this person at amateur. It's like, well, it's all experience, isn't it? So, even if you're out of your depth a little bit in the IMAF, it's still like well worthwhile going there just to get the exposure. So, yeah, it's just, I feel like all the best people, well, most of the best people in the UK or any Europeans, they always go to IMAF, don't they? They always either, you always see like silver or, any medalist really that goes on to go on to professional, like they always do well. They're not out of their depth when they take that leap to the next level. So it's always a good test to see where your level's at to see if you are ready for the next stage.
I'll use it as a tiebreaker factor. Like if I'm trying to figure out who I think is going to win a particular Cage Warriors fight or a fight in LFA or a fight two dudes making their debut in the UFC, two women that are fighting on the Contender Series, whatever. If you're comparing their professional records and you see that one has done well as an amateur in international competition, otherwise their professional career is kind of a 50-50, flip of the coin. I will look at the people who have competed in those international competitions and think of that as a tiebreaker factor in that person's favor. But you're right. I won't say that I don't care about anybody's amateur career, but at a certain point in someone's pro career, it just doesn't matter anymore. I want to know if I'm trying to figure out who I think is going to win a fight, or I'm trying to figure out who has a higher ceiling. Then you kind of have to look at the amateur career. But the fact is, if you were winless, as opposed to, all the wins that you did collect as an amateur, if you were winless as an amateur, Summer, it would be crazy of anybody to say well, she didn't win as an amateur. It's yeah, she's 6-0 as a pro and she's been absolutely murdering people. So at a certain point, once you prove yourself as a professional, then it certainly doesn't matter.
Yeah, for sure. I feel I mean that the bartering maybe that you have when you do have a good amateur record, you'll get people wanting to sign you with promotions, or maybe get a Cage Warriors contract or an FCC contract, whatever, and then you might get, I wouldn't say easier opponents, but if they're trying to build you up, maybe they do. If you're a hot prospecting amateur, a lot of the time you do see that they won't get easy fights, but they'll just they should win their pro debuts against these other people. But it's all, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. Yeah, like you said, when you go deeper into the professional rankings, no one really cares. But obviously at this very start, in my professional career, obviously people are going to only have to look at my amateur career to realize that I'm not that bad, so they should take me a bit seriously. So it just, the longer you go on, the less it probably matters. But obviously, you can still learn stuff from their amateur fights and careers, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, anybody that's looking to face Summer Onley next, you should be, a lot of those people should be fearful if they've watched your most recent fights. I'll tell you this, I have never messaged a fighter after setting a time that we were going to talk and said wow, I'm watching your fights right now and they're blowing me away. I've never done that before, and I did that this week because it was the first one I put on was the first FCC fight that is on UFC Fight Pass, And as soon as it started, I was like, Jesus Christ. I was like, God, like the striking exchanges here are fantastic. And that is something that you very much expect from a top prospect from like where you are at in the world. I mean, someone like Dakota Dachiva comes to mind, like as someone who like exhibits similar qualities of like well-roundedness, but also just like if you're standing with them, like you're gonna be in danger. Now the points you were making about like amateurs that are coming up early in their pro careers and getting easier fights, I think we do, and this is where I think that like fighting under the one banner thing for as an amateur and as a pro can be an issue for people because even under Cage Warriors, you see people that didn't necessarily realize what was outside of their bubble. The Cage Warriors bubble is very impressive. If you're able to win inside the world of Cage Warriors, that means a lot. But at the same time, you still don't know what's outside of that bubble. And there's a lot of people I think that have been insulated from, different levels of competition. I criticize the New England regional MMA scene in America a lot for similar things where like the prospects are fighting 11-62 guys in main events and they're 8-0 as a 19-year-old. And it's like, dude, this guy's minus 50,000 to win this fight. Like that should not be the case. What did I learn from this? That this guy could win a fight at a bar like at 3 a.m? I didn't learn anything about that. But as we talked about, like England has really developed as like now there's not just one promotion where people can make a name for themselves. There's multiple. You see the UK Fighting Alliance, I think it's called. There's a couple like that. There's a few with like that are becoming more and more recognizable. You're seeing more people that have that on their amateur resumes as they go on to successful pro careers. What is the vibe that you get as you've gone through, the early stages of your pro career and through your amateur career about like what some of the positive things and what some of the negative things are about the UK regional scene right now?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm obviously more invested in the women's divisions because I just care a little bit more about it. Obviously, I watch the men's, but yeah, I care more about that. And obviously, through the amateurs, like I think we're in very good hands. There's quite a lot of girls coming through the ranks that are like undefeated and they've gone on multiple different shows and they're fighting everyone that they can. And it's really, really good to see. And but in the professional ranks, I've seen a lot of girls complain that, they can't get matchups. And, I've had people say to me that I'm not fighting anyone good. Like all I do is fight Brazilians, and it's not my fault. I want to fight people from the UK. I want to fight people from Europe. But the problem is that you'll get some girls that will be very protective of their records. They don't want they're a hot prospect in their country or whatever, so they don't want to fight me. And it gets really frustrating. And unless you call them out directly on social media, you're not going to get a fight with them. So it is frustrating because I do see it a lot. I do see it a lot, especially, when you go against, women in the professional ranks. Like I know there's a girl that I train with, Ella Bill. She's a bantamweight and she hasn't got a fight for like a year and a half and she's desperate to try and get fights. And, I was exactly the same. That's why I had such a massive gap between my amateur career and my professional career because there was no one wanting to fight me. And at the time I'd just come off a loss, like, I shouldn't be that scary, but it's just, it is silly to see people not willing to fight other people. I get that, I'm a prospect in my country and I'll have other girls that are prospects in this country as well. But it seems a bit silly that, I have to get Brazilians to come over here to fight me when I would love to defend my belt against someone from the UK. But, we've put it out there and people, I know girls that have said no to me, and it's annoying because that it makes everyone not fight the best of the best. And then, I get it because we all want to go to the UFC. We all want to get to the PFL or whatever division. But there is a time and a place where I would love to fight the best of the best in my division. And I'd love to prove that I'm the best in the UK. But, other fighters don't want that. And I see it in all divisions. There's another girl that is a strawweight and she had to call out people on Instagram just to try and get them to message her back. And it shouldn't be this hard to get fights. But obviously with with females, there are slimmer divisions. There's not going to be as many girls that I can fight. And I get that people are signed to different promotions and it's, a little bit more tricky in that way. But, you have to fight someone eventually, and you don't want to get like, to the UFC level or, a really high ranked promotion and then not fight very good people. And then all of a sudden you're going against someone else that's like got a very good record and you've never really been tested against like a good, solid opponent that is also a prospect. And then you get found out. So, I've always wanted to fight the very best. And so, FCC have done me a solid in getting Brazilians over, and they are notoriously tough. They are so difficult to finish. Like, they are really hard people to get a fight with. And because they don't really seem to give a fuck, they just come over and they'll just scrap anyone because, it looks good for them. They're on UFC Fight Pass. They're fighting another prospect. It's a win-win for them. So, I've been really, really fortunate that I've been able to get fights quite recently. So, I think there's obviously an issue in the fact that people aren't saying yes to people, but then that, I have faith in everyone in the UK because I feel like we're just getting better and better. It's still early days, obviously, especially in the women's side of things, but I'm seeing girls now that are like 19 or 20 and they're like 6 or 7-0, and it's just like they're like unreal records. So I have every faith that they're going to be better than I am. So I feel like it's in good hands for sure.
It's crazy. All the people I have on this show, they say a lot of the same things that you're saying, where it's like, I mean, especially like even for heavyweights in America, like it can be tough to find like quality matchups. And it's talking about like people, protecting their records or people not wanting to fight them necessarily. I want to talk to somebody eventually who is doing this. I want to talk to somebody who's protecting their record and not taking matchups and being really selective and just hear their perspective on it. But like, like at featherweight, when I had Joy Pendell on here and she's considered a top 10, women's featherweight outside of the UFC. And it's like, she's got to really pick her shots when she calls out someone because there's only a limited group of people that it's going to benefit her to fight. And it's like, all right, I want Leah McCourt. I want to fight you like right now. Like, you've got to do that. And at women's bantamweight, there's just not a lot of like women that are necessarily like itching to fight at bantamweight because there are challenges to getting a fight. I think there's a lot of people that are fighting at the wrong weight class that are fighting at like 125 pounds that would be better suited at 135, but there's just going to be, to the third degree, more opportunities probably at 125 pounds. And I wish there were more opportunities for people at 145. I wish there was more opportunities for people at women's lightweight. I think that the more people you have fighting at the right weight classes for them, the better product that you're going to get in the long term.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, if I could physically do it, I would love to be a flyweight because there's just more options for me, and even bantamweight, it's like really the only big promotion that's doing anything in bantamweight is UFC, like a PFL, one championship, all the other ones that are like in level with the UFC that no one does a bantamweight division. So it's like, I have to try and get to the UFC. There's no other option for me. Whereas maybe if I was featherweight, but then UFC scrapped the featherweight division. So that's only PFL now. So, obviously it is really difficult because I'm quite tall. I'm a bigger girl naturally. So it's like for me to try and make flyweight, it's just, I'm never going to be able to make it. So it is bantamweight or nothing. I mean, I could go up to featherweight, but that'd be a bit silly because I'm not as big as like these featherweights. Like me facing Chris Cyborg, maybe a bit stupid for me to do. But, if it comes to it and if I have to go featherweight, I'd go featherweight. But it is a bit frustrating because obviously you do get, I've trained with girls that are like 6 foot and above, and they're going to try and kill themselves to try and get to bantamweight because there's no other viable options for them to fight at like featherweight or lightweight. So it's like Kayla Harrison. She's had to basically kill herself to try and make bantamweight because, she'd done everything she needed to do in the PFL and now she wants like a bigger challenge, but the UFC obviously don't have a featherweight division. So she has to go down to bantamweight because there's no other options. And you see it all the time in UFC bantamweight's division where people are missing weight. And it's because, well, ideally I'd love a featherweight division, but there is none here. So I have to try and cut down. And then that's why people don't make weight. But then obviously the UFC did try the featherweight division. And, you had loads. They did tough, didn't they? I think they did the Ultimate Fighter for featherweight, and then loads of people did the featherweight, and then they all just cut down to bantamweight. So they all just abandoned that division. So it was like a bit pointless. So yeah, it's kind of like you just have to get more people involved in the featherweight and lightweight division. But it's just hard because getting the right prospects to be able to build up that division. It was obviously going to take time, isn't it? Because I imagine most women, like the average is like probably a flyweight naturally. So trying to get more girls involved in the bantamweight and above, it's going to be harder. So it's just lucky if you get a fight at bantamweight really, or featherweight. So you just got to take what you can.
I mean, like with Kayla Harrison, when she cuts to 135, it is a striking image. Like to see her weighing in at 135, it's like, Jesus Christ, what was her week like? And you got to respect it, because you got to be a certain level of animal to be able to do what she does to get down to 135. At the same time, if you're trying to set up a fight with Amanda Nunes, who cares whether it's 135 pounds? Amanda Nunes was a 145-pound champion for a while. I am more interested to see Kayla Harrison fight Amanda Nunes at featherweight than I would be at bantamweight. And by the same token, like you said, take people like Macy Chiasson. All right, and Macy Chiasson has missed weight several times at women's bantamweight. You know why? Because she's super tall with super long arms and super long legs. I don't know how she gets down to bantamweight. And the PFL... I made a big point about this last night, just talking to myself on this microphone. But PFL, when they sign strawweight prospects, when they sign women's flyweight prospects, and it's different because they're just trying to figure out what to do with Dakota Dechiva. They're scrambling to figure out how to make the most out of Dakota Dechiva's career. And Dakota Dechiva's banking on them, doing the best for her career, as she stated what her career plans are. But the PFL, the most famous person they have ever put into another promotion, was in a weight class that doesn't exist outside of the UFC, in the UFC right now, and in a lot of other places. Kayla Harrison was fighting at 155 in PFL. And so I don't understand why if PFL started doing featherweight or even lightweight again for women's, and then if they instead focus their attention on atomweight instead of strawweight, guess what? Now, everybody in the world outside of Japan or India or Mexico, and even in those places, if you fight at 105 pounds, PFL is now the destination to go to. Yeah. And, if you can find a star at atomweight, there will be star power there. I always said, how many years Michelle Waterson was potentially cheated out of being a UFC atomweight champion after being the champion in Invicta. But if PFL just focused their attention in the weight classes that the UFC doesn't offer, and if they were to have a bridgerweight, a cruiserweight division to offer, because they have so many recognizable light heavyweights and smaller heavyweights, I think PFL would be well served to have more women's featherweight or lightweight fights, and to go to atomweight, go to places where people are not able to go to the UFC for. And then immediately, if you start offering those fights, you become the premier destination in the world for all of the top talent that wants to fight at those weight classes.
Oh yeah. Another point obviously is atomweight. There are loads of girls that are doing atomweight fights at amateur, and they'll go on regional scenes, and they might like you said, they'll go to Invicta and they'll win the belt, and it's but when I sign to the UFC or the PFL, I have to go up a division because there's no atomweights. And it's if they just created that division, they'd fill it up straight away, because there's loads in the European scene that are begging for it, and they're just not doing it. And if UFC aren't willing to put that atomweight division together, then why not do it in PFL? There's clearly a market for it, and there's clearly a market for bigger girls as well. It just seems that it's only strawweight to bantamweight that is getting eyes on it, when actually there are lots of different weight categories that should be available for women, and it's just not. So yeah, they definitely could capitalize on it, but maybe one day they will, maybe they won't. It's just hopefully they do, because there are lots of talented girls in atomweight and featherweight and lightweight. It's just frustrating that they're only really focusing on the 3 weight divisions that are available now. So hopefully something like that happens, because they're missing out on a lot of talent.
I think that like it's actually short-sighted for them to think like, we can't market women's featherweight because look, like I understand that it was a challenge to find people in Bellator and PFL to challenge Chris Cyborg. It was a challenge for years to find someone to be like a reasonable challenger to Amanda Nunes at featherweight. But you can really build up a champion at those weight classes. You know, when someone is dominant at one of those weight classes, I think it's easy to market. And then with atom weight, I seriously cannot understand the hesitance from so many people because not only would you fill those divisions so quickly and would you become the premier destination for people that want to fight at 105 pounds, but think about the markets of talent that you get into with atom weight. Who is producing atomweight fighters for the most? You got Japan, you've got India producing people of that size, you've got people in Mexico and in South America, you've got people in China, in Thailand. These are all places that these companies are trying to get their foothold into. And there are countries that are just way better at producing those. And like with India, they've got such like a good, like sneaky wrestling pedigree between like with their fighters. And there's not many countries that are producing a ton of people that are fighting at 105 pounds, but the ones that are have a lot of those to offer. And if the UFC or the PFL had an atomweight division right now that was just made out of women from Thailand, it would still be one of the most exciting divisions in the entire sport. Just atomweight Muay Thai. You could do a whole card on one Friday fights of just 105-pound Muay Thai, and it would be the most exciting thing that would be on YouTube or TV all day.
Oh yeah, yeah. I love watching one championship, and you know, like you said, like loads of them at atom weight or straw weight. You know, they're tiny girls, but like they've got some serious knockout power as well. Like they don't really give a crap, do they? They'll just swing, and the level is just insane as well. Like you're watching it, and you're like, the technique is just like so good. So it's not like, yeah, it's just people swinging at each other and hoping for the best. Like it's actual good martial arts to watch. So it's entertaining for the viewer as well. And then obviously they get to fill a gap in the market that's like desperately needing, you know. So yeah, I'm hoping that it eventually happens. But I mean, they've been calling it like for what 5-10 years now for an atomweight division. That hopefully that eventually comes to light, because yeah, like I said, they're just missing out on so much talent, and it's so like the technical side of things for the women's division in one championship is just like so good. It's so entertaining to watch. You know, they'd be stupid to not kind of capitalize on it.
And you see it in Ryzen too. People with phenomenal like Shinya Aoki type like grappling skills, where the jiu-jitsu exchanges on the ground are just so gorgeous to watch. And you're seeing omoplatas getting attempted. You're seeing these people also being able to wrestle. You see like a lot of really cool stuff. And the thing is, if you call yourself an MMA fan and you're not able to get behind like the high quality women's featherweight fights, you're not able to get behind women's atomweight, I just feel bad for you. I feel like there's something closing you off to that in your mind. And I think it's hard to call yourself like a full-fledged MMA fan if you just don't like a weight class because of the weight that it's at and because it's 105-pound women. I think that like those are some of the best fights, and that's why I love Ryzen as a promotion so much, is that they have, you know, the opportunities like that for a whole different group of talent. And you know, now like because you're 6-0 as a pro, and are you 31 years old now?
No, 32 as of June.
Okay, so a recent development.
Just old.
Well, I mean, you know, we see prospects in women's MMA of, you know, quite a varying age range, because a lot of people got into it at different times in their life. Now, it does, you know, it might change the way that people feel the need to go about their career, but it's not like you have like a ton of mileage on your career or anything. You know, it's not like there's been, you know, 30 fights and like this is where you're at now. Like you're as much of a prospect as somebody that is 27 years old. You're just 32. And so what is, I mean that in the most endearing way, you know, like you have all the potential of somebody who just happens to have gotten like gotten to this point or a similar point just a few years earlier because like life just happened differently. That's the way it works for so many people. And I mean, like when I had Julia Avila on here and she was talking about like before, she used to run ultra marathons before being in the UFC, and Lindsay Payne, also out of the UK, who has fought at atom weight and straw weight. She used to be a marathon runner and then started, taking up martial arts at a later point in life. Everybody's got a different timeline that brings them to this point. So we see this a little bit more, but like right now, after defending the FCC belt, after being 6-0 as a pro, what are the next things on the horizon for you? Because I have to think that even at women's bantamweight, you have a good amount of options for what is next to advance your career.
Yeah, I mean, there are things going on behind the scenes. There are things, very exciting things, but obviously I just can't talk about them because they're not official yet. So, I'm hoping to just be in the UFC. That's like my end goal, is to be in the UFC. And like you said, I am 32 years old, 32 years old. And, but I always like to think that a lot of the UFC champions, like both men and women, are quite older, like, mid to late 30s. You just saw Justin Gaethje win against Ilia Topuria, like one of the best title fights I've ever seen. And it's just like, what is he, 37, 38? So, see Shevchenko, she's 38. I don't see anyone trying to, I don't see her getting beaten for a while. I mean, everyone's beatable, but she's so dominant. So you just think, even though I did start later, there's no reason for me to not have the aspirations to be the UFC champion one day. It just means that, I've always said it, like I started amateur at 25 years old. I had my pro debut at 29, but it was like a day before my 30th. So I'm just playing catch up with everyone. I really am. Like I started with jiu-jitsu and I just, went into MMA. It was kind of like, I just winged it. I was just seeing if I was good at it. I happened to be okay with it. So I just went on this journey and, I had no intentions to be a professional MMA fighter when I started. I just wanted to see how I'd do. And then it just kind of went from there. So now that I'm 6-0 as a professional and I've got like 5 knockouts to my name, it's like, surely I can be in the UFC soon because, like you said, I'm 32 years old. I don't have many miles on my body at the moment. Like luckily, I touch wood, I've not really got into many scraps in my time. Like I try and be sensible. Obviously I want to win. I want to win by knockout. I want to win by stoppage by any means possible, but I'm not going to be stupid and get myself into a war that I don't necessarily need to be in. I know some people just love to be in a scrap, but I'm not like that. I like to be dominant and I like to shut down someone. Obviously there will become a day where I will have to get into that kind of scrappy fight, but I don't want to have those kind of fights really if I want to be in this sport for a longer time. Like, I've always said that I don't, if it gets to a point and I have to have someone tell me that I need to retire, then that's a bit sad, isn't it? But I'm hoping that I know in myself that if I keep losing or I'm coming up short on these split decisions, then I'll know when to hang up the gloves. But I mean, for now, it's like I am 32, but I feel like the best I've ever felt. So, if I can carry on for another 6-8 years, that's amazing. You see someone like Holly Holm that's only just retired from the UFC a few years ago, and what is she, like 40, 41 now? And she's still in phenomenal shape and she's still doing super good in boxing. So I don't think age really matters anymore. And like, obviously compared to other sports, I started off really late and there's probably no aspiration to be a professional in that specific sport. But in MMA, there's just something different about it. You reach your athletic prime, what is it, like early 30s, mid 30s now. So, and I think people are so smart about their training now that I'm not willing to like have a stupid training sessions every day just to fit in everything that I need to, because my body isn't the same as when I was like early 20s. So I have to be a bit smarter with how I'm, recovering and what sessions I need to get in. Like I can't kill my body every day like I used to, but I sound like I'm acting like I'm 50 years old. I'm only 32 years old. I'm acting like I'm done, but I'm not. Like I feel fresh. I feel like I can still hang. Like I've fought 19-year-olds, I've fought 25-year-olds, and like I haven't had a problem with them cardio wise or strength wise. So I don't think my age is an issue. So anyone that says that can shut up.
Jesus, Summer, you're 32. Like it's not that far ahead at all. I mean,
know.
not only that, your life could be very different in a year. All it takes is the right opportunity. If you get an opportunity on the Contender Series or on a UFC undercard, and you win that fight, not only that, win it in impressive fashion, and then the next time you get to fight, I don't know, let's say like one or two fights later, if you're able to be active, then you fight like Jacqueline Cavalcanti, and you get the win there. Oh my God, now you're in a title picture. And it took not that long at all.
No.
Like this sport moves quickly, and especially in the women's bantamweight division.
Yeah, for sure. Like, yeah, I shouldn't have been such a downer about my age then, should I? I am only 32. I'm 32 years young. That's what it is. But yeah, no, you're right. I mean, like you look at someone like, Bia Mosquito, for instance, where she's 35 years old, but where she had 3 or 4 fights in the UFC, like she's top 10 now. Like what
Looking
she needs,
great.
like, one or two more fights, and like she's definitely got a title fight contender series. Like, title shot. Like she's so dominant that it's kind of like you can't not give her another ranked opponent and then a title shot, because as well she's exciting. Like you said, like you want people that are finishers, and she's such a good jiu-jitsuer like that. It'd be stupid not to have her in a title contention fight, because she is just so exciting to watch. So I feel like, yeah, it's one thing that you've got to be winning it, but you do have to be exciting for, I'm guessing, the UFC matchmakers to want to put you on a bigger card, because people want to watch you fight. So yeah, I don't think it's definitely like my life could be completely different, like you say, in a year or 2 years' time. I could be a title challenger in the UFC. You just don't know how it's going to pan out, and obviously you get last minute call ups as well. Like if anyone gets injured, like I'll be like, hello, I'll take it. I love being active. I don't like being out of a fight camp. I love to have another fight planned right now, because I just get bored, and I love training, but I love to have a goal in mind. I love to have someone to fight for, or a promotion or a date just set in my mind, so I've got something to focus on. So I'm game for anything. Like if I get a last minute opportunity, of course I'm going to take it. I'm not going to say no, even if it's the odds aren't in my favor. I'd be stupid not to take an opportunity that's going to maybe be life changing. So yeah, I mean, I am an optimistic person. I am. I feel like I'll be in the UFC in the next year or so. I just don't think that, like, why wouldn't they want me? I'm excited to watch. So yeah, hopefully in the next I don't know, however long, with the news that's like I know that I've got. So I'm just very excited about the next potential steps that I have. Yeah, very excited.
Ooh, very exciting stuff on the horizon, whatever it might be. And here's the other thing too, is like, look at what's happening in these coming weeks. Did you ever think, as a fan of women's mixed martial arts, of mixed martial arts in general, that we would be seeing Mackenzie Dern defending the strawweight belt against Jillian Robertson? Like, and I don't mean that in an insulting way at all. Like Mackenzie Dern earned that title over Virna Jandiroba in a fight that I at first did not think she would be winning. And if you would have asked me a couple years ago, do you think Mackenzie Dern will ever be a UFC champion? I'd be like, no, I think they'll try their best to get her a title shot because they like Mackenzie Dern and she's a marketable fighter. But I don't think that she'll ever be the best in the world. Right now, she holds the belt. And if you would have asked me a year ago, do you think Jillian Robertson will ever fight for the strawweight title? I'd have been like, nah. Like, I think that maybe she'd get a fight away. And I don't know if she'd be able to get over the hump of the person that she needs to get to beat to get to that title shot. Now she's defending the belt against Jillian Robertson. It's like these two fighters' lives are very different. All it took was a few change in circumstances for those opportunities to open up.
Oh yeah. Like I just automatically, obviously when Zhang Weili went up to fight Shevchenko, I just thought as soon as like that fight was over, I'm like, oh, surely she's just going to go back and win the belt again. But like, well, obviously I don't know what's happened to her. Maybe she's taken some time out or whatever. But it's crazy, because obviously I watched Mackenzie Dern when she was doing jiu-jitsu, and then I remember watching her UFC debut, and I was thinking, like, she's mad. Like, it's crazy that she's won, she won ADCC, she won IBJJF Worlds, and now she's the UFC champion. I think she's like the first person to ever do that. So watching her go through the ranks and like watching her from her debut to now defending a belt, like, yeah, I don't know many people that, you always think, yeah, there's every possibility that anyone could become a champion if the right things line up in for them. But with especially Jillian Robertson, like, even though she's got like the most submissions and the most finishes in the strawweight division, like she's it's hard to like for her to string wins together, even though she has got impressive wins over loads of good girls. But it's nice to see that different people get an opportunity like this, because if you get like obviously with Shevchenko and like Alexa Grasso, they had like 3 title fights back to back to back, and it's just like, let someone else come in and maybe like mix things up a bit, because you just need that. Like sometimes people have a good I never thought Shevchenko would get finished, and then Grasso finished, and I was like, oh my God, I remember watching that and thinking, like, the amount of game planning it must have taken for them to realize that she does this against a fence and go for her back. Like, everyone's beatable. So it's nice to see that. Obviously it's good to get behind someone that's going to be a champion for a long time, but to keep things moving and to always get new contenders in, it's kind of refreshing to see it change hands a little bit, because you obviously get you get Wang Zhili, and then you get Shevchenko and Amanda Nunes were like the top 3 for a very long time. So I think it needs to move on. Obviously, Amanda Nunes retired and now she's come back, and Shevchenko's coming surely maybe to her last career. I don't end of her career. So you need these new people coming through to prove that they are championship worthy, and it's good to see that it's happening, really.
And you've seen in the UFC flyweight division too, like Pantoja gets injured and it opens up Joshua Van being the champion. Then it's like, oh, we have a lot of things we can do now. Like now we do Van Tatsura Tyra. Now imagine a world where we can do Manel Kape versus Joshua Van, like for a championship. There, a lot of opportunities open up there, and especially about people who like just hang around and wait for the right opportunity. From the United Kingdom, the top example I think of in this situation is Bisping. Like watching the Ultimate Fighter last night and seeing the one-eyed version of Michael Bisping that there is now, and it's like hearing that guy talk about like belief in yourself hits different, because if you would have asked me in 2011, 12, 13, 14, if you would have asked me in those years, who's a guy that you think is really good and he's a staple and a pillar of this division, but you don't think he'll ever be a champion, the answer would have been Michael Bisping. Like I would have never seen that guy being the best in the world. And not only that, like he beat Anderson Silva to get to that point, and he had the huge upset of Luke Rockhold to actually win the belt. And it's like, this sport is so young on the worldwide scale, where like conservatively or liberally, it's like over 30 years old. And every other pro sport is 100 years old at least. So we have a very limited sample size. We don't know everything about how fighters advance in their careers yet, and we're still learning about that. And you see these different things happen all the time. And Juliana Pena was another example. I will never, ever, ever forget where I was. You see the look on your face already. We're already thinking the same thing. It's like, I will never forget where I was and how I felt when I watched Juliana Pena walking Amanda Nunes down with those 1-2s. And then when she got on her back and Joe Rogan like practically squealed, choker. I will never forget. And if you would have asked me beforehand, I would have said like, you can put the house on Amanda Nunes. Like I do not see a world where she loses this fight. So we just don't know everything yet about how fighters perform and like how different people advance in their careers on different timelines yet.
Oh yeah, it's like everyone says in martial arts. It's just like, on any given day, someone can win against someone else. It's just, it's one of those sports where you can't always be 100% guaranteed that you're going to win, even though you should win. Like you could be a massive betting favorite, but you get one slip, one like, I don't know, takedown that doesn't go the right way, and you get reversed and you get choked out. It's like when I watched Amanda Nunes against Julia Pena, I couldn't believe it. I was like so gutted. I was like, I love Amanda Nunes. Like, how did you lose that? It's crazy. And then obviously you came back and absolutely smashed her. But yeah, and like that's what I mean. Anyone can win against anyone at any given, like if the timing's right and the opportunities are right. It's just, that's why I think martial arts is so fun to watch, because you just never know what's going to happen. And like you said, it's such a young sport. I mean, even when you compare fighters to, in the UFC 10 years ago to the UFC fighters that are now in there, it's like the technical ability is just skyrocketed as well. Like everyone's gotten so good at being good in every aspect. Like you can't just be a jiu-jitsu anymore. Like you can have that as your base, but you have to be good at everything else. Otherwise you get found out straight away. So I think it's moved on so much in like such a short amount of time that it's amazing what it's going to, well, I can't even imagine what it's going to be like in the next 5 or 10 years, like what kind of champions they're going to try and produce. Because obviously you've got all these wrestlers coming from Russia and Dagestan, and like they overtook loads of people, and now it's like the strikers are coming back, and like everyone's getting better at defense because they've had to, because otherwise I'm just going to get laid on for 5 rounds. So I think it's always like a challenge of trying to figure someone out and figure like a specific part of the martial art thing to, you know, to get better at. And obviously everything's always evolving. Jiu-jitsu is always evolving, like striking, like, and the coaching now is just like, it's so smart and technical that the fighters that they're producing is just incredible. Obviously you look at like Trevor Whitman, and like he worked out how to win against Ilia Topuria, and everyone counted out Gaethje. Everyone did. I did. I was like, there's no way you're winning. But like watching him absolutely, ragged up on, he didn't ragdoll him, but he definitely like won a lot of the rounds. It's just, it's nice to see. Yeah, he did it. It's just like, and no one thought he was going to win. Like everyone counted him out. Like every UFC fighter did. So it's cool to see something like that like pan out, because you know Justin Gaethje's been in it for so long, and like he won everything apart from the actual lightweight belt. And it's nice to see that he finally's ticked every box that he needs to now. So yeah, I mean, even when he started out, he was a completely different fighter, and Trevor Whitman's like refined him and refined him and refined him. So yeah, I think that just goes to show that, you know, everyone gets smarter. The longer that they go in there, and the more experience you get, obviously the harder you're going to be to work out. So it is cool to see how it's evolved in such a short amount of time. Even when I was amateur, and like look at all the amateur fighters now that the UK are producing, it's like they're so much better than what I used to be. Like when I was an amateur, they'd smoke me if I was an amateur right now. So it's really cool to see it even adapting in like the last 4 or 5 years.
The Gaethje one really was nuts. You to explain to people outside of MMA, like what Justin Gaethje did just doesn't happen ever. For a guy that has come up short in those chances for the real lightweight title so many times, to beat not just the guy that, because I said it would be a lot different if they were like, Dustin Poirier is coming out of retirement, they're going to fight for the vacant belt because Ilya's going up to 170 to fight Islam. Then it would have been like, okay, like it'd be like, and I hate to put it like this before the fight actually happens, but like if Jillian Robertson beats Mackenzie Dern, I'll be like, okay, she is the strawweight champion. I do want to see her against someone who is more a boogie woman of a division. I do want to see her against Zhang Weili, and then it'll feel real. What Justin Gaethje did was real. He beat a boogeyman who had put, legends of the sport to sleep with that right hand. And so it's we're learning new things about it, all the time. That's what makes it fun. And so, Summer, we've been talking for a little over an hour. This has been a phenomenal conversation. I am so excited to see what comes next in your career. And thank you so much for being here today. I'm really glad that we were able to get this on the book so quick. And if there's anything else you want to say, anybody you want to shout out, the floor is yours.
No, I just I want to thank all my sponsors and all my training partners, because without them I wouldn't be able to train because I am poor, basically. So it's very nice of them to support me for so long. And I hope everyone is excited to watch me fight again, because it'll be a good one. It's very exciting. It's very exciting. Yeah. So that's basically everything. Thank you for having me on.
Keep a close eye on her moving forward, folks. 6-0 is a professional. Ice cold. Summer, Onley Summer, thank you so much for being here. Folks, thank you so much for listening. Have yourselves a great week, and peace.